Coming up today on the ROL Show.
You're not here just to make money. You're going to die the same way you came to this world, naked and broke. So what are you going to leave behind as your legacy? So I was doing youth leadership and volunteering. It was nice. But now with the stories that we're telling and retelling and sharing, I know for a fact that we're not only impacting people's lives, we've saved lives with some of the books we've done.
Hey everybody, it's Kalani Bale again of the ROL Show, Returns on Life. And today I have an amazing guest that it's pretty cool because he's actually a really good friend of mine. He's like a brother from another mother. This gentleman, my gosh, he was actually at one time a real estate mogul. And during the 2008 financial crisis, he lost everything. And today he is a amazing person. He's actually helped over 500 people become best-selling book authors. This guy is absolutely on fire. He's about to break over $1 million this year in income, on his way to $3 million. Please welcome my guest, Mr. Doug Crow. Welcome, Doug.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So, Doug, real quick. So, let's go back real quick before we talk about your success today. The stories you've told me before. Talk about during that financial crisis that you had to dig yourself through, because I remember those times talking to you through that. Talking with you, actually. Talk about what happened, where you were before that happened, and what was going on during that time.
How much time do we have? Let's see. Well, it was funny. I studied like radio, TV, film production, Northwestern, so I loved the media. And I got a job at ABC TV in Cleveland. And Robert Allen came in for an interview. The guy who wrote the No Money Down book. I go up to him after the interview. Hey, Mr. Allen, this sounds great. How do I become a real estate investor? Well, just come to my high price seminar, young man, and he didn't say in those terms, but it was $5,000 for a weekend boot camp. And I'm making $3.10 an hour at ABC. Okay. This is in the late 80s.
Wow.
So I said, I make $3.10 an hour, sir. He says, that's okay. Go to the library and check out one of my books. Right. So he didn't just dismiss me. He said, no, go to the library, check out one of my books. Thank goodness he did, because I applied exactly what he said and made millions of dollars in real estate, bought an airplane, had my own radio show on ABC radio in Chicago for a few years. And I told him years later, hey, thank you so much. Because of what you told me that day in the studio, which he probably forgot, I became a multimillionaire in real estate. Oh, thank you. Wow. That's a testimonial. And that lasted up until 2008, when people were all, whining and crying. And I was one of the leaders of that, because I had not one foreclosure, not two, but 19 foreclosures.
19 foreclosures.
And a bankruptcy and a divorce. And quite frankly, it was very depressing, so depressing that I was encouraged to take some medication, right? I was basically suicidal for a while, quite frankly.
Yes, yes.
And I didn't do that, obviously, but I came close. And during my little boo phase, I'll never forget this moment. I'm driving on the road, putting in our favorite authors. I put in Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins, guys, to get me pumped up again. The books that you and I both have read, as we grew and did self-development. And when I was reading those, hey, it really supported my career. Now I listen to them in my current state, and I hate them. I think they're liars, they're cheats. I don't believe you anymore. I'm so depressed. Nothing even resonated with me.
Wow. And
I'm driving on the road. I put in this one CD, and 9 months of clinical depression gone in 6 seconds. I'm like, what was that? Who is this guy?
Yeah, who is this?
I pop the CD out. I stare at it. I pull the car off the road, and I go, oh my gosh. It was me. It was my CD I had recorded about goal setting for my real estate students. I didn't recognize my own voice. I was so
You're just so depressed
for my success. This was like a new guy. And it instantly woke me up. I was in this other world for 9 months. Like, oh, wow, this cured my depression in moments. And so my first thought is, well, how can I help others do that, right? So I had a riches to rags story, not a rags to riches. How am I going? Well, maybe I could make a product that gives people a voicemail from the future, or a book or something. So I came up with this software that actually took a person's personality and their goals, mashed it up, and created a full-size book. And it was a book about...
This is around like 2010, 2009? What time is this about?
Yeah, 2010.
All right.
And so people got this book and it had their name in it, their picture in the back cover, their personalities written in first person. And I sold it to New York Life and Rotary, and they loved it. And I'm getting really confident now. Wow, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna make millions with this. I took it to Chet Holmes. Now you may know Chet, he passed on recently, but he worked with Tony Robbins' organization like you did. And Chet looked at this book, this interactive book thing, and I'll never forget what he said. Oh, that's a cute idea, Doug. Because I created a book for him and a text messaging, all that. He goes, what do I want with a $99 product? Why don't you just charge like 40, 50 grand and just do a full-size book for somebody? I'm like, $100, 50 grand. It's not a tough decision. Like, all right, the software is cool. Let me go ahead and do this because Chet said so. And business just took off. We've been doing books now for CEOs, founders, athletes, a few celebrities here to help them get their story told properly in a well-positioned and a interesting book.
Let's talk about that, Doug. Because I see you now and I see the person back then. So do you think at that time real estate was your purpose, your passion, your calling at that time, and you just didn't realize maybe because this book, your often your brand company is just it's an amazing company.
Yeah.
And so did you think, talk about the ROL, the 8 life funds, is the heart fund, the purpose, passion, calling. What's in your purpose, your passion, your calling? So you think, was it real estate? Do you think it was real estate, or was it?
No, real estate. Sure. Real estate, the vehicle, a destination was financial independence, right? Real estate, sure. I'm providing housing for my tenants. I remodeled homes, improved the neighborhood, but that wasn't my calling. That was just a collateral support mechanism. Something nice to have happen because you're doing good work in the world. I was always volunteering for youth leadership, and that was a lot of fun for me. I really enjoyed doing that. So in terms of passion, we have a lot of people who work so hard, they forget to take care of themselves. The health fund you mentioned, they forget about community service, the God Fund. They don't remember that you're not here just to make money. You're going to die the same way you came to this world, naked and broke. So what are you going to leave behind as your legacy? So I was in youth leadership and volunteering. It was nice. But now with the stories that we're telling and retelling and sharing, I know for a fact that we're not only impacting people's lives, we've saved lives with some of the books we've done. Because I've done books to help men become better fathers. I've supported organizations which prevent child abuse and spousal abuse. There's a lot of things that we're doing. Our mission is not to create any old book.
Yeah.
Our mission statement is very clear. We do books that make the world a better place. I've been approached by at least 2 celebrities, and I turned them down. Not that their stories weren't interesting. It just wasn't interesting to me. So I'm like, I'm not a good ghostwriter publisher for you. We do books that make a difference. And that's our passion.
It's amazing you say that because I remember you actually got me involved with Big Brothers America.
Yeah. Right.
You actually, it's really fascinating now because during that time, I think you were still not really out of that whole depression yet.
No.
You found a way to really give back. One of the things that in my life funds is the humanitarian fund.
Yeah.
Even though you weren't, you knew that was made you feel really good giving back. And so tell me about that. And now you're real estate, you're trying to get into, creating books for everyone. So you're starting to find your passion, your calling.
Yeah.
Yet, which is awesome. You also took the time to mentor a young boy who didn't have the possibility of creating any future. So talk about how you got involved with Big Brothers America. Why? What idea? How did that come about?
Yeah, well, I think I'll rekindle your memory, man, because we're both having some challenging times in 2009.
Yes.
And I remember I'll just be really transparent about it because you're asking me, but when you go through a divorce, everybody copes with different ways. And my kids didn't cope with very well, like a lot of them. And, there wasn't a whole lot of communication going on. And that's part of my depression is that I lost the most important thing, not the money. Money you can make back. But I'd lost some very valuable connections with my kids at the time. And so there was this yearning as a dad. Oh my God, what can I do now? I mean, I avoided suicide, but what else can I do now? And Big Brothers was the answer for me because we both read the book that Ken suggested, right? Strong
Right.
Father, Strong Daughters.
Great book. Oh my gosh, changed my life forever.
Yeah, I got through chapter 3, and I packed up my bags, went back to Chicago. Even though they weren't talking to me, I knew I needed to be around. So that's why I only did Big Brothers for about a year. Then I was done, because I figured out that even if they weren't going to talk to me, I needed to be nearby them in order for them to connect. So I went back and I hung around, and they didn't talk to me for a while, but at least I was close by. That slowly and very carefully we rekindled the relationship, and it's great today. Just to be, the happy ending here.
That's beautiful to hear, because now I know you and Jack are way closer. I mean, you guys travel the world together.
Yeah.
What's amazing, because I keep telling, I have clients that are super wealthy, yet, wealth, if you're not close to your family, that's not true wealth, right? Success without fulfillment is not true success. So what I love what you did there, you actually, even though you didn't let that fund go bankrupt, you kept investing in it. No matter what, you kept being consistent. You moved back, because proximity is power. Because you were here in California and your kids were in Chicago.
Right.
And so, and you moved back, and you gave it a chance to actually be able to connect again. And so do you think, you look at yourself now, do you think there is, I always tell people, yes, your wealth, you have 8 life funds, and you're probably already a millionaire in several funds, but you just got to work on some of your other funds. So would you say today, because you did take the time to invest in the home life fund, which is your kids, right? You see the payoff today?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's funny, it's certain ages, kids go through phases like we all do. When they're in college, they're on their own, but they'll call you when they want money.
Yep, we'll do that now.
And when they're, in high school, you're like dog dirt. They don't talk to you at all because you're goofy.
Yeah.
But at a certain point after college, you become like your best friends. And it's kind of fun to go have a glass of wine with your daughter, and talk about adult stuff. So yeah, it's definitely an investment. And I'll just remind people, no matter where you are, no matter how close or not close you are with your kids, they're your kids. So being available, being there, it's probably one of the most important funds, because when we were doing our books, I pose a question that you might also be doing with your business. But when you're gone, which we'll all be gone someday,
Yes. Yep.
no one's going to wreck your Facebook feed, man. It's not there. So what do you have? What's your legacy? Well, for most of us that have kids, that's it. And in my case, kids plus a printed book will outlast a human life. But there's no library of tweets. There's no library of Congress of Instagram stories, right? It's a book that solidifies a person's legacy, and their kids is a living legacy version of that. So it's probably one of the most important funds that a person should. And here's the thing about, I got to bring this up because I'm sure you talk about it quite a bit, but people use the word balance a lot. They talk about your balance in your life. And you're laughing, because we both know it's impossible. Take a look at your 8 funds, 24 hours a day. You didn't put a sleep fund in there. Okay, nope. I've got 12 to 18 hours and 8 funds. You can't break that up evenly.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
You got to lean towards one or the other at certain times of your day and life and week and month.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's an important topic that people understand. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to go to church. Some people go to church every day. It's fine. But I can't spend, 2 hours a day with my kids when I'm working 8 hours a day and going to the gym an hour a day. I mean, there's certain things run out. So this reshuffling does not mean you're not in balance. It means you're focused for a certain period of time. So I think the word balance, balance is a myth, but I think you can and should deposit and monitor and watch all 8 of those funds, because they all have tremendous value. And don't forget, they're interlinked. Yep. Being healthy and sick is not good.
Exactly.
I mean, sorry, being rich and sick is a bad combination, right? Yeah, that's what I meant.
Doug, it's phenomenal you say that, because what I've been able to really teach people about the 8 life funds, I always, some people, there's balance doesn't exist, right? Some of your funds are going to be funded. Some of them might not be funded for a week or two, but the thing is, at least you're conscious of it. We always tell people, go on a monthly plan. At least you're going to, invest in your 8 funds at least once a month. Or if you want to go on a bi-weekly plan, or go on a weekly plan, right? And so I always tell people it's a 2% rule. What does 2% rule mean? It's interesting because I tell people in terms of my world in investing, if you get a 2% rate of return over 36 years, 10,000 will double to 20,000 over 36 years.
Yeah.
But if you can get a 4% rate of return, which is 2% more, that same 36 years, that 20,000 becomes $40,000. It doubles 100%.
Yeah.
Right. So literally, if you get a 2% more, 2% of your day is literally 28.8 minutes a day. That's it. So can you invest in your 8 life funds, 28.8 minutes each life fund, at least once a week,
right.
once every 2 weeks, a bi-weekly plan.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's a consistency, right? And some funds, like I said, will be fully funded. Some other funds will be lacking. But one thing you don't want to do, you don't want to let any fund go bankrupt. And so right now you are fully funding your heart fund, your purpose, passion, calling.
Yep.
So I want to go back. Tell me about the first book that you created. The first, I mean, it takes you're going from real estate. You're selling real estate. You're managing property, and now all of a sudden you're looking for people to help write the books. Who was that person, and what was that like? That transaction, like in your first book?
Yeah, there were 2. One was Becky Cash's thing about autism, but the one I think I saw a copy of is Tony Webker's. He was one of the coaches on The Biggest Loser.
Whoa, very cool.
And it was called Get It Right, Make It Tight. And he's personal trainer, is about fitness, whatnot. And it was my first or second book, so the fee was quite small compared to what we charge now. But now with legacy, that's one thing for your entrepreneurial audience. If you're starting out, go ahead and work for free. Go ahead and do something really just to get the reputation and establish authority of what you got there. And then you can always increase rates as you get more experience, right? So it was a physical fitness book and an autism book were my first 2.
So what year was that roughly, Doug?
Gosh, right around the time we were before I met you, I think right around 2009, 10, in that range.
For ones that don't know,
the reason book. What year was your first book that we did?
I was 2014. And so
we took a year or 2 of chatting about it. I know that. So I'm gonna call it 2009 or 10, somewhere in that range. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a funny story for the audience, is because I actually met Doug in Vegas. I was there for our convention for a company called ASEA, which is an MLM company. It's a health product. And one of the distributors there was a golf pro, right? Kristen. And here's the book. And Kristen was there she is. Yeah, there she is. And Kristen was a good friend of mine. And she didn't realize this. I always had wanted to write a book.
Yeah.
I didn't know the process. When I met Kristen at that time, she was, Kalani, look, I just wrote my first book. Listen, here's my publisher. You were at our party.
Yeah, that's right.
I think what was a really awesome part of that night. And we got together, and it took me, guys, for the audience, Doug, you got to be persistent with your business, because I kept putting Doug off for a year, right? 2 years later, we finally started. Another year after that, we finally got the book published, right? And so if it wasn't for that, it wasn't for Doug being persistent and consistent, right? And he wasn't a jerk. He was just really very loving about it, right? Very patient. Because of my first book, that book actually took some awards for writing awards 2014. And later on, Doug helped me write my second book, 2019, which he helped me become Amazon bestseller, which is amazing. So take me through the progress of your growth, Doug. Because these entrepreneurs are listening to this, right? I'm sure people, like, they're working at a job that they hate. They know it's not their purpose or passion, but you got to work. Hey guys, one thing you got to do: make a lot of money doing something. Because I always believe there's a difference between your calling and your gifting. Because see, you look at Doug. Doug at that time had a gifting of real estate, right? So he was actually creating a lot of income, but that wasn't his purpose, passion, calling yet. He moved into it. So I always say, make money, be good at something. That way, later on, you get so good at it where you can fund your purpose, your passion, your calling. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
So take us to the growth, because I know everyone's starting the business.
Yeah.
What was the growth like? What was the frustrations in those early years?
Yeah,
from 1 book to 10 books to 100 books. I mean,
right.
What's that process like?
Great question. So being a real estate investor and developer was a good time. I had a great reputation in the marketplace until it all went down the sewer. A lot of fun. I've had the airplane and stuff. It was a really good time. When everything went crashing down in my little boohoo phase, I wrote a book. a lot of people do this for a cathartic reason, right? And
Totally.
the book was about success of all things. When you're bankrupt, that's what you write about. So I did it. I used some of my methodology of the things that I knew I was going to do. So it was some cathartic, some forward thinking, but it was fun to do it and create it. And I gotta be really honest with you. I didn't do one of these like, hey, I went from $0 to $1 million in 3 years. No, I didn't. As you mentioned, I'm still healing, or was at that point.
Yes.
And I kind of putzed around. I would do 4, 5, 6 books a year. It was me and one VA. We made a living at it. I was doing 6 figures, which is great.
Yes.
I wasn't really building a company. I was just doing the books because I enjoyed talking to people and selling it and helping them get published. And it wasn't until I met my now wife who said, "Why don't we scale this thing, Doug?" So at that time, before that time,
Actually, Doug, I want to stop you here because it's so important, because one of the funds is your honey fund.
Yeah.
And you always know, I'm telling you, the best choice, if you really want to be truly successful, you have to pick the right partner. It is so critical. Yeah. So, Doug, you met her roughly, and then she helped you scale your business, which is amazing. So roughly at that time when you met Jen, how many books had you already published at that time?
I don't know. We had done, we had made about 200 or so bestsellers. We'd only created about half of those, maybe less than 100, maybe 50 or so. I don't even know the number. Yeah, it was, like I said, it was an entrepreneur, almost a one-person shop. There's me and one VA. So it just
wow.
And when you mentioned about taking my son around the world, he graduated college. Talk about the kid fund, right? So relationship was solid. He's 3 weeks in graduation, Kalani. Calls me up, "Dad, all my friends are interviewing and doing things. I don't know what to do with my life." And I'm like, "Oh, you're so lucky." I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm depressed. I'm anxious." This is the one time in your life you don't have to do anything. Take a year off. It's called and go travel.
Yes.
I don't have any money. You can work for me. You work my LinkedIn account, and we'll just do that. And so we went around the world like twice. We went to like
so good
a dozen countries and saw a bunch of the Colosseum, the pyramids. We did everything. Taj Mahal.
So good
time. And strangely enough, in terms of this concept, one good book funded the entire trip. People said, "How'd you afford to travel around the world with your son for a year?" I'm like, "Man, it was cheaper than living in the USA."
Completely.
We had 2 master suites and a maid and a cook in India for like $60 a day. It was like,
wow,
it's cheap. So the piddling around doing a book or two was Doug's fun time, right? I would travel, I do a book here or there. I wasn't really scaling a company. But I hired one of these writers, and I normally have only USA writers. But there's one gal that I dated off and on a little bit, very smart woman. So I want to try to do a book. All right, so I gave her a little assignment, one book, and then she did one for a gal who her company took off.
Really?
She went on TV like 12 times, cover of magazines because of the book that this gal wrote. And then she did one for a National Geographic TV star that we did a book for. And I'm like, this girl's from the Philippines, but her English is better than mine. It was really
wow
good stuff. So we dated on and off, and during my little, flitting about my butterfly stage, and then and during that time, Kalani, I didn't even have a website, right? I was just working off LinkedIn and referrals, and I'm doing solid 6 figures from that. Okay. But then Jen's like, "You know what? You should, maybe scale this." We got together again in 2019, and she and I have both grown up a little bit, and like, "Oh, this is the one for me."
Yes.
I knew it like on the second or third date in 2019 forward. "Oh, this is solid." And then she got involved with the company. She's got a CPA background. She's organized way beyond you and I ever could hope for.
Oh, I know. Jeez.
And is wicked smart. So that whole thing was like, this is not just a future wife, this is a business partner. And so during that point, when COVID happened, we couldn't even be together for a couple of years.
I remember that. Oh my gosh. I remember. I couldn't even see her.
But during that time, business went up 300% because of
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So COVID actually catapulted you to success.
It did, because I'll share this with you. I was, February, March, when the thing all blew up in 2020. I'm being like, hey, Mr. Positive, it's okay. It's just blah, blah, blah. But I'm looking at things on social media. I'm like, oh, this is depressing. And that energy seeped into my calls, I'm sure. No client came into our doors for a month and a half. And
that's scary.
By April or May, I'm like, this is not good. I'm like, don't want to go out of business. So I went for a long bike ride. And I got away from the computer for half a day. And I felt great. I was filling up the health fund.
Yes.
More importantly, I was filling up the God fund.
Wow.
I'm driving around, biking around, and I'm looking at the trees and the birds. And like, those birds don't know what COVID is. And I'm looking at the nature, and there's this blissful peace going on. I'm like, I feel better out here. Why do I feel better here and bad at home? And I started really deep thinking about it and praying about it a little bit. And I'm like, oh, I know what it is. It's the evil forces of the world,
of course,
dividing us, putting crap out there on social media. So I called up my social media manager, my VA. I said, hey, man, change my password on everything and don't give it to me for 30 days. I haven't watched TV since that. I have watched TV. I haven't watched a full news broadcast since 9/11. I knew to cut that crap out.
Yes, you're very smart.
I realized at the time that social media is just as bad.
Yep.
They pump stuff there to divide us. So when I went cold turkey on social media, I felt better. I thought I was creating this little bubble in nature, but I could also bring that bubble back home. And when I talked to potential clients, they signed up and business went up 300%. And Jed helped me scale it with a project manager and a full-time graphic designer and some other people on our team now. We've got about 8 people that are working with us and we're growing. And
let's go into that. You always hear scaling your business, right? You watch Shark Tank and scaling the business. What does that mean, scaling a business, right? What is that in terms of your industry? What does that actually mean?
And it's true for any industry. And I had misinterpreted it up until this year. Actually, I'll tell you about that because you're going to meet my mentor now.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Between 0 and around 250 grand a year, you're experimenting. You don't have a business. 250 to 500, you're not experimenting, but you're maybe testing, right? Once you hit about $1 million, okay, you got a couple employees, you got a business, but it's not scalable yet. You got to put SOPs and process in place, and not to grow, but to scale. And that's one of the books we're working on, The Art of Scale. And people confuse growth with scale. Not the same thing.
Very great distinction, man.
You can grow and make less money. You can grow and be miserable.
Totally.
Scale, unfortunately, for people like me and maybe you a little bit.
Me too.
Boring, man. It's doing the same thing over and over and over again. And people like us are creative. I don't like doing that. That's why I have a team that can turn the machine on and put the oil in the gears and keep things going. So scaling is putting together, after you've tested and marketed and have a process that actually is documentable, is profitable, and it works. Scaling is putting the proper systems, processes, SOPs in place so that you can, the number one thing I'm doing hopefully next year, I think I do both this year, is removing myself from the machine.
That's true scaling the business. Yes.
Now I can scale. Now it's market. Now if I wanted to exit, I could exit if I want to. But until that point where you replace yourself, you do not really have a business. My dad was a dentist for his whole life. Did very well with it. Put all of us through college, took care of the grandkids. Great job. What did he do when he wanted to retire? Was it scalable? Could he sell it? Yeah. You know what you sell a practice like that for? One times revenue.
Exactly. Yeah. One multiple. Not much at all.
And it's like, why bother? You could just, it might not be worth it. Yeah. You make up whatever it is, but the
equipment's worth more.
Yeah. Scale means I remove myself from the machine and it can actually grow and still be profitable. So scaling happens inside of growth, not the other way around. So you got to make sure you got those things in place. Then you can scale it. Then you got a real business. You can run ads. You can franchise. You can go internationally. You can do things with scale that you can't do with growth. And you can't do if you're involved with everything.
So
So
true.
I've been very aware of that and learning more because of books we do, because I talk to these guys who are doing 30, 50, 100 million, a couple $1 billion companies we work with.
Amazing.
I learn, and I tell Jen all the time, like, man, we're getting our MBA every year, writing books for these people because we're learning what's the truth. And
That's actually, Doug, that's an amazing insight because you're helping these people who are successful already, helping them write their books. You're getting the inner details of how their mind works, what they went through, and what they did. That is a beautiful, beautiful,
right.
Angle to really get your tool, your axe sharpened, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we're doing a book right now for a guy who the past 2 companies he's worked with, both have gone to $1 billion. And he's an interim COO. He comes in there, looks at it, does this, and took him to 1 to 100 million and 1 to $1 billion. And the one that we're working on now, he was doing, I'm gonna make these numbers right. He was doing about, I think around 5 million a year, just decent for a small company. And because this other guy came in, his partner, they went to about 5 million a month, right? So do about 60 a year. And he's saying, well, if we do a couple more tweaks, we should be a $1 billion company in the next couple of years.
Beautiful.
So I'm able to go in and watch them do that magic and go, this is how you scale for real. Not these people who do I'm sorry, I'm not going to disparage anybody, but like, people get pictures in front of their Lamborghini and crap. I'm like,
I know.
Real.
That's so old. That's so dumb.
Real successful people don't do that.
That's so true.
Lawsuits, right?
Yeah, real successful. You'll never know how successful they are. It's so amazing, right? They keep it quiet. Yeah,
quiet. Right.
So Doug, let's help you scale even more. Because a lot of people are gonna be listening to this, and I know so many people that want to write a book. And I always tell everybody, everyone has a book inside them.
Yeah, at least one.
You were born with something inside you to get to the world. You have a voice, and you're the perfect guy to actually, get it out of that person, from their mind, from the heart, onto paper, actually paperback, where someone else can read it, because we can learn so much from other people's mistakes, right? That's true wisdom, is learning from other people's mistakes. Yep. And so how would someone, get involved? To get involved with you and to have an idea how to get their book or how to get their autobiography, what would they have to do? How do they get a hold of you to actually get that done?
A couple of ways. The simplest way is to email me, doug@dougcrow.com, and put in the subject line Kalani, so I know where they came from.
Beautiful.
Other way is, one of the things that we do, which is pretty unique, is that we reverse engineer a book for people. A lot of people have great stories or ideas, and they go ahead and invest time and money into writing their book. It take them, 6 months, a year, whatever. And then they come out and go, okay, who wants to read about me or this thing? And nobody cares. So we help them. I say, listen, let's begin with the end in mind here. Thank you, Mr. Covey. And let's actually reverse engineer your book and talk to your audience beforehand and take some surveys and polls and focus groups to find out what's out there. What do they really want to know? And so we split test cover designs. We do surveys on titles. We do a lot of research for them before we write a single word. And
yeah, that's great.
Yeah. One of the things we do is kind of unique is we do an Amazon 3-star review analysis. My team will go into their category and take the top selling books, number 1 and number 2, and we'll collect no less than 100 3-star reviews and copy and paste every word from that review, collate it, assess it, and say, okay, here's the pie chart. Here's what they liked about that book. Here's what they didn't like. Here's what would have liked to have read. And you'd be surprised how many common threads we find in like, dislike, would have liked to have seen.
Yeah, patterns. Yep.
Collate that and present it to the client saying, here's what your audience really wants. By the way, your title's awesome. Chapter 3 sucks. And you need to add this chapter because people are asking for it. So now when they've got this information, when they go to craft their book, well, who do we go to promote it? The people we surveyed 9 months ago, like, yeah, I remember you talking about that. And if they're smart, and I'll get this, this is probably worth $1 million to somebody. If you put the right people in your surveys early on, like a couple of my clients have done, and these people represent large organizations, we're talking nonprofit, trade, union, corporation. Hey, I'm doing a book on cancer. Maybe I'll talk to the American Cancer Society about this chapter idea. We'll get your feedback there. And talk to the person, marketing or recruitment or development or something. And you have a conversation or 2 or 3 with them. And when your book comes out and you say, hey, by the way, Bob, thanks for those interviews you gave me. I used story 2 in this book. Why don't you take a look at it? And you send them a copy. Oh my gosh, I'm in chapter 3 and 7. This is great. Yeah, how many copies do you want?
Well,
the last person we did this with hasn't finished yet, but he got a letter of intent for 63,000 books.
Wow.
$1.2 million deal there. I mean,
wow.
So engaging your audience before you produce is going to give you great feedback and potentially collaborative sales where you don't have to actually sell. You just say, hey, you're in the book. How many do you want? Yes.
That's wonderful. Wonderful, Doug. So I want to ask you one last question. I mean, you're feeling your funds right now. I mean, you got total alignment right now, which is a lot of joy, which is amazing. I know, of course, we're always going to have some challenges as we grow. I want to know, I always like to ask my guests this one question before we close it off is, what is one thing that has happened in your life that at that moment in time when it was going on was literally hell on earth? But you look back now, that specific time in your life really not only molded you and sharpened you, but really was a big part of why you're succeeding today. Is there anything that you could think of? I mean, I'm sure you have a couple of things. Is there anything like a life lesson that you could teach the audience to get over and to just really keep going?
I know that the common answer is your biggest, tragedy or trauma gives you the resolve to do better, right? I know that's the right answer. My bankruptcy, foreclosures, and divorce was the best thing that happened to me, And I'm not going to say that because I don't know if I believe that or not. I wouldn't have wished that pain upon my worst enemy.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's not good. But in terms of creating my my value and my peace and my excitement today, the thing that was probably the most, the biggest trigger moment for me, or thing that maybe like, hey, this is a page turner.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be not one thing, but it's talking to other people. And I don't mean necessarily on Zoom or in a sales call.
Yes.
I mean, actually, like traveling the world was really helpful. Been to 45 countries, all 7 continents. That's pretty rare, but it gives you perspective on the world.
Yes. Yeah. Worldview.
I don't take myself so seriously. Like, come on, people complain about, all their injustices of the world. Like, oh yeah, did you eat today?
Yeah, right.
People who haven't. So shut up with your whatever it is. But I guess meeting people and removing my belief system and just listening without judging has been the most powerful thing to me. And that really it did kind of come from my trauma with my kids when I was estranged.
It seems like listening to you, Doug, it's like the gift that you were given was the gift of being able to be present. Sounds like, right?
Wow. I know one book that helped you with that one.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Doug. And so that's a beautiful.
I'm sorry, we should mention that. That's your book, Kalani. Okay, the present. Yeah. I'm sorry. The
Superhero Single Dad. Yes, that was my first book for the audience. Superhero Single Dad.
I'm sorry, we created that triangle. I've told that story now at least 20 times to people. Yeah. About the present. What really present is ACT, action, time, and communication.
Yes,
if
right.
you have all those 3, you're not present. So your book actually was, I'll just say that, it was probably one of the key things about being present was activity, spending time, and communicating with the person you're
right.
With. If you remove one of those, if you're active but spending time not communicating, you're not present.
That's right.
Any 2 of those doesn't even compute. You got to have all 3.
So true.
And that's true in every interaction now. I really keep that in mind. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Doug. Doug, I'm so humbled that one, that we're in business together, but also 2, that we're friends. We're good friends. You're like a brother. I come to you for some deep advice, and also when I need a shoulder to cry on, I come to you, and vice versa. I really want to thank you for being here today, giving me your time. And audience, I really want to thank you for staying on and listening. And once again, if you want to get a hold of Doug and get your books, email him at Doug. Was it again, Doug?
It's Doug@DougCrow.com, Crow with an E. So Doug@DougCrow.com. That's my personal email. So you got to put Kalani in the subject line. Otherwise, I might not see it. So
awesome, Doug.
there's another website I can give if you want to confuse them, but authorbrand.com/go has that assessment I talked about, that vet and validate thing. So you can go to authorbrand.com/go, and happy to chat with you.
Beautiful. Doug, thank you so much. Audience, thank you. Have a great week, great night. Have a good day, everybody.